Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Conquering Cancer and Beyond. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Cheryl Laflen. She's a longtime Mesa resident with over 40 years as a community activist and volunteer. As a three-time cancer survivor, she shares openly the good, the bad, and the scary sides of the cancer experience, always blooming where she has been planted. And I'm very excited for you to hear her interview because she has an amazing. Welcome, Cheryl, to the show. And my first question to you is: at what age were you diagnosed with cancer, and what kind of treatments did you go through?
I was diagnosed at 57,
Okay.
pretty sure that's what it was. And it was breast cancer.
Okay.
And I had just found the spot by accident. I actually had a mammogram that was completely clear on the 1st of April.
Okay.
And 8 weeks later, there was a lump that I could feel. And so we checked it out. My doctor thought it was probably nothing.
Yeah.
It turned out to be malignant. And we had just done the lump to begin with. My doctor said, even though I think it's nothing, it's better just to take it out.
Yeah.
And I totally agreed. And so we took it out. It was malignant. And then we did a second surgery to get clear margins.
Okay.
And we did not. And at that point, I just wanted to do the bilateral mastectomy. I didn't want to do the simplified thing. I thought, I just really believed that would give me the best chance for survival.
Sure.
And it didn't bother me. My image and my femininity did not rely on my breasts. So it was a very easy decision for me to do that. And so I had the bilateral mastectomy. And this happened 9 days after I retired.
Wow.
So I retired. I was a school librarian. I retired thinking all these wonderful things. I was going to spend a lot of time on my patio. I was going to travel a lot.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen quite that way. But I had the bilateral mastectomy then, and I had chemotherapy. Because I chose the mastectomy, I did not have to do radiation.
Okay.
So 6 months then of chemotherapy. And after that, it was 5 years of Arimidex. And then after that, 5 years of Femara.
Wow.
So 10 years of, but that's pretty easy. And the side effects that I had were really tolerable. There was some neuropathy kinds of things in the feet and so on, but it was okay.
Yeah. I think after having gone through chemotherapy, those things seem like piece of cake.
and I was very blessed with my chemotherapy too. I mean, I lost my hair certainly, and I was very tired.
Yeah.
But I didn't have terrible severe side effects from that either. So I really felt very blessed that I could get through that, come out the other side, and just be able to pretty much have life normal,
Sure.
And but then in 2014, I was at my doctor's. We were looking for some arthritis in my hips because I was having a little. So I had an MRI, and when I went back for the results, he said, "Yes, you have a little arthritis there." And then he said, "But over here, there's a mass on your kidney."
Oh, boy.
And he said, "These are almost always malignant." Well, that really set me back.
You've heard that before.
I know, and it was totally unexpected. And kidney cancer doesn't have a lot of symptoms that you can go in and check for that. So,
Sure.
So that was a surprise. The next surprise was that there was a blood clot attached to that tumor, and it went through the renal vein and up my vena cava and was about half an inch from my heart at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Well, blood clot, that was scary.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I was a walking time bomb. Blood clots, oh, if they break loose, you know.
Yeah. And you had no clue, of course,
No
until you
clue.
went to get this.
And when they found out, they called me. They said, go directly to the emergency room. So, you know, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then after several hours there, they said, okay, go home.
Oh my God.
And so they determined that it probably was not, you know, an immediate urgent situation. So then I had to find a surgeon that would not only remove the kidney, but deal with that blood clot.
Okay.
And I could find a surgeon to take care of the kidney.
Right.
It took 3 months and several tries to find a surgeon that would take care of the blood clot.
Wow.
So
what
stressful.
happened in that 3 months?
You know, I was just, we were tense all the time. My husband was, I was, you know, but it's kind of one of those things. And I've always been just pretty matter of fact about my life, you know. It is what it is, and we just deal with it and we go on. So I just kept doing that and checking out doctors, and finally found the surgeons that would do it down at the University Medical Center in Tucson. Okay. And went down there in August and had the surgery. It was a long surgery, about 10 hours, I guess. And
so they removed your kidney?
They removed the kidney and they got that blood clot out without any break off pieces or any problems.
Okay.
So at that point, I was cancer free. They had gotten it all with the kidney. And so I didn't require any other type of treatment at that point. But of course, you know, your blood goes through your kidneys all the time, and I knew that my blood was circulating through past that tumor every second of every day, and so, well, you know, it very likely could show up somewhere else. They don't treat it until it does show up somewhere else. So so I just waited, and it was about 15 months later that it showed up in my lung. And,
oh my gosh.
And that word metastasized, that's the scary one, I think. Because, you know, then it's gone into your body all over. I mean, it can show up anywhere, and that was pretty scary. But the 3 little spots were all clustered together, and the surgeon felt like we could take one lobe of my lung and get it all. And of course I had the testing for my lung power, you know, and he really said, you need to build up your cardio. So we started going to the gym every day, and I did the treadmill, and I was to the point I was doing 3 miles plus in an hour.
Wow.
And he felt that was good. And so I had that surgery then over in Phoenix at St. Joe's. And, you know, you have the healing time, and it was a little tough. But again, I've been very blessed. And so it was not a remarkable healing. It was just, you know, you take it easy and you, inch by inch, you know, you get a little bit better.
So did you have to go through chemo again after any of these, the
No.
kidney or lung? No.
No other treatment other than the surgeries. So at this point, I am 4 years cancer free.
Wow, congratulations.
And it, you know, my reality is that it can show up again at any time. And I just realized that, and don't let it bother me. You know, I don't, and I can't say that, you know, I never think about it. Of course you do. Anytime you have survived a cancer, it's out there that
Yeah.
it could come back. What if it comes back? So, but I don't live my life with that in mind. I
Absolutely.
stay really busy. So that was in 2015, right at the end of 2015,
Okay.
and then in 2017, um, took my husband to the emergency room for a very minor thing one day, and came back with a cancer diagnosis for him.
Oh my.
And at that point, he had cancer throughout his body. We had no idea it was there. He had tumors in his brain, 7 of them. And he was driving the car. He was living his life totally normally. But at that point, then he only lived 17 days
After you found out.
after we
So
found
what
out.
made you take him to the emergency room?
He actually was thinking, well, he knew that he had some acid reflux issues, and he already had an appointment with his gastroenterologist, but it was a couple weeks out.
Sure.
And he was having some issues that he was feeling in his throat, and he thought he would just get a stronger medication than something over the counter.
Right.
And it was Memorial Day weekend, so there was
Yeah.
not much happening, and anyway, we did not expect that at all, and
Wow. I'm so sorry.
and
that
that
you
that
go through that.
by far was a bigger change to my life than all of the other things.
So there you were trying to deal with all your cancer diagnosis, not knowing, and he's obviously taking care of you, not
Yes,
knowing
he
that
was.
he himself has cancer within. Oh my gosh. How did you deal with all this? Like, what was, I guess, once you got the breast cancer and then you had the kidney, what was the one thing that got you through this unwanted journey that came into your life? What was your mantra?
Well, like I mentioned, I've been pretty matter of fact through my life, that you just live with what you got. So, somewhere, and I was a librarian, so I read a lot, and somewhere in some little inspirational thing, I had read Bloom Where You're Planted. And that just really struck a chord with me, not only as a positive thing, but it's just really kind of fun too. It kind of brings a smile. So I found this in a hospital gift shop one day. It said exactly
Wow.
what I thought, and I just thought, okay, I have to have that. So I bought this, and it sits on a shelf in my living room where I see it every day, and I put it on my business card, and this is just what I live by.
So what does that mean to you? Bloom Where
It means that I'm going to do the best I can in whatever situation I am each day. So, anyway.
That is just amazing, Cheryl. You've been through quite a bit. How has that changed? How has it changed your life? What have you? Where has it taken you?
Well, it's certainly something. Between us, we had 6 children, so certainly it is always part of my thoughts to make sure my children know that you do have inner strength. It's there to draw on, and of course their support and the support of friends is so huge.
Yeah.
But then after my husband died, there were things that we did in organizations that we belong to, and I keep up with that. But probably the 2 biggest things for me were it was about 6 months after he passed away that I heard about the auditions for a second act. And I had gone to the first 2 shows because as a cancer survivor I was interested, and I was so inspired by those shows. And the second one I went to, I took a friend, and on the way home she was saying, "Oh, you should be on that stage," and I did not really feel like I should. But anyway, at that point then, at 6 months after he had passed away, I needed something to kind of kick myself back into the world a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought I would audition. And I thought just the audition would do it for me. Never ever expecting to be chosen for the show. So when I was, it was exciting and a little scary, and I just met the most wonderful women there. And so I have enjoyed those associations and being part of all that the Purple Tribe is, you know, and the shows since, and I edit our book, and this year I am doing some of the coaching as well. So, you know, it's expanding, and I love that. The other thing that I do is that I volunteer 1 week at Ironwood Cancer Center, and I work in the chemo room where the patients are getting their chemo. And I just love it. It's the best part of my week. Those people, I know where they've been. I see them, really, really doing well. And those that are scared or frustrated or just totally in a bad place, I can talk to them and they can see me as a functioning normal person out being able to do things, and even their caregivers, because I was that too when my husband was diagnosed, and so I can relate a lot, and I just love it. It makes me feel good every day, and it makes me feel like I'm giving back a little bit somewhere out there in the world. There's a little bit better place just because I was able to help a little bit. So that's really good.
Wow, that's amazing. So how have you felt that your life has changed through this whole process? What is the one thing that maybe you used to or never used to do before the cancer and now you do? I know you said that, you went and auditioned, maybe that was something you weren't, but what else has it brought out in you that you feel like, you know what, if this didn't happen, I would not have done?
Well, as I said, my husband and I were very involved with our community. That was just a philosophy that really drew us together. It was a second marriage. So we participated in a lot of community things, but pretty much he was the leader person. He was the one that would become the president or the one really out there, and I would do a lot of support things, always there, always with him, and it's really funny since he passed away how people have said to me, that it was the two of us. They saw us totally as a package deal at the same, but I didn't. I really felt like, okay, one of us gets to be out in front and the other one back here doing this, and I was just fine with that. I was comfortable there. It didn't require a lot of me, but yet, like I said, our philosophy in doing things for our community was very strong, and so we did.
So now you have to be the one.
As soon as he was diagnosed, that changed, and I became the one, and it was okay. I was comfortable with it, and I have enjoyed those things. So it has really, really brought me more front and center. I was the face of what we did and what our philosophy was, and the hope and the keeping going and just live your life the best you can. So.
Yeah, that is amazing. It's just amazing. For me, when I got, diagnosed, I really took it with, I remember I drove into my garage and the doctor said, it is cancer. And I was like, okay, I just know I got to do what I got to do because there's nothing I can change. And I think accepting it makes the journey easier rather than sit and fight and think of why me. And for me, why me was, what is this teaching me rather than why is it me and not the person who was next to me? So I feel like acceptance is definitely the first
I agree completely.
Right?
I do. we never know
You never
what's
know.
going to happen to us on this journey called
Yes.
life, but it's really how we respond. And when you have um, children and grandchildren and other people, looking up to you to see how you cope with these things. Um, and that was huge. We had such an enormous outpouring of support, both through my cancers and then when he got sick. And that makes such a difference. So
it really does.
it
gives you hope that there's still kindness
does.
out there.
It does. And it's given me a better perspective, more empathetic. We always tried to do all of those things for friends too, but now having experienced it, my mother lost my dad in 2006, so a long time ago. She's 91, almost 92, and they were together for 60 years.
Wow.
And so, yes, losing my husband is probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me. But for her, when she had not been on her own, they married when she was 19 and he was 21, and they were always together. And suddenly she lost that after all of those years. So I have a greater empathy for people that have been through those kinds of tough situations. It's just really made me a better person. I mean, bottom line, that's what it is. You look at life differently with a lot more gratitude and
absolutely
understanding that we're all here to help each other. So.
Absolutely. And I think, through these experiences that we go through, that's the best thing, is to give back and be a better version of yourself.
Absolutely. Every day.
So Cheryl, let's talk about one thing that I really struggle with is when we are going through our cancer treatments and we have nurses, we have doctors, we have everyone with us, and then at that last day when it's your last chemo, the doctor comes and says, okay, I'll see you in 6 months and life should be back to normal. That is when you feel like, wait, what? You're not going to be with me anymore? Like, I'm not coming next week here to have chemo and hang out with all of you guys? And you're trying to now figure out what is the new normal, because it's not ever going to be what it was before. Your whole life has changed. Your perspective has changed. The way you think has changed. So how did you try to get your life back together? And I know for you, your situation was so much tougher than some of us, but what was your new normal? How did you figure that out?
I'm not really sure. You kind of just, you go day by day. I know that, yes, that visit when the doctor said, well, I think we're done with this, no more chemo, and you can't help but think, on one hand, oh, it's over, thank goodness, and on the other hand, there's this little voice in there that says, but what if one more would get that last cancer cell, or so letting go of that, while it is a tough experience, it's also kind of your security blanket. You're treating it, and that plan of action and that program of I'm treating it, I'm actively working this, then that feels really like you're doing something good. And to just stop feels like, but I should be doing something. What am I doing now? And I think it just takes a little time. I can't say that there was anything that got me back into a new normal, except just living day to day, and my husband and I traveled a lot. So we had taken, before that last go around, we had taken a trip, and we came home, and in the stack of mail that was waiting for us when we got home, there was a promotion for another trip to Egypt.
Wow.
And well, Egypt was a place that, was just always one of those mystical places that, I'll probably never get to. So I looked at that and I told him about it, and we had just gotten home. I mean, so, oh my goodness.
You look forward to the next vacation.
Don't do that again so soon. And the next day he was out in the car and he called me and he said, we're going. He said, if we've learned one thing right now, it is that you don't waste the time. And if you get the opportunities, you do. So we went to Egypt.
Wow.
So, and in doing things like that, because that's more than your normal day-to-day life. So in doing things like that, it really gets you back into life and living it well.
Sure.
So.
And how about how long do you think it took you to heal? Or I'm assuming you're still healing.
Mentally or physically?
Both. Both.
Well, yes, the healing part, like after the kidney cancer, I developed a hernia in the scar. So then that was another surgery that had to be dealt with. And in all of those, there are twinges and things that are different. And you just learn to live with that. The emotional healing, I think that goes on.
Yeah. And there is chemo brain, right? Or am I the only one going crazy?
No, and when I'm visiting with the patients in the chemo room, I tell them now, use that as long as you can. So, years later, I still use it from now. Yeah. It sounds better and more sympathetic than senior moment.
Right? You can't blame it on age. Oh, it's just chemo brain.
Yeah, chemo brain, you just...
I don't think that ever leaves you. I mean, for me, it's been 2 years now since my chemo, and I'm still recovering, and there's always something or the other that just pops up, and you've got some kind of side effect or some kind of issue that's coming up, and your body's never the same.
My girls and I raised them that we played games all the time, and of course when Trivial Pursuit came out, that was huge.
Yeah.
And I was the librarian, and I did well at Trivial Pursuit. And I find now that the answers don't come quite as easily.
Oh yes. So I'm glad that we know that it's just not us alone. Everyone goes through it.
Everyone does. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Cheryl, thank you for sharing your story. And what's the one thing you'd like to tell anyone watching this who's maybe starting this awful journey? What would you like to say to them?
Just believe in yourself. Just believe that you're going to make it through this. One way or another, the days pass, you come out on the other side, and it's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay. And for women that haven't yet, what I would tell you, please, is to always do those self-exams, because like I said there at the beginning, I had a completely clear mammogram, and it was only 8 weeks, and I had a lump that I found. Now, if that lump had been deeper, I would not have found it for the year, and I probably wouldn't be here today. And in those 8 weeks, not only had the lump developed, but it had already spread to lymph nodes. Wow. So, yes, do those self-exams, learn what your body feels like, and don't be afraid. I mean, if you feel something that feels unusual, not there last month, check it out. The sooner the better, because the sooner you do it, the better chance you have of good times afterwards.
Very true.
And treatments are so good today.
Yeah.
They're so much better than the horror stories that we've heard from our mothers and grandmothers and things of that time.
Back in the day, people used to die. You didn't even know if someone died of cancer because there was no way of finding out.
No way of knowing a lot of them. Absolutely.
Very true. Well, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, you're very
You
welcome.
are
I'm glad we
such
got to
an
do this.
inspiration. Thank you.
You're welcome.